What would you do if your wife handed you divorce papers just to force you to accept another man in her life? Let me tell you how I turned her manipulation into my freedom.
I knew something was wrong with my wife, Mara, long before she admitted it. It started subtly, the way these things often do. She became inseparable from her phone, her fingers always dancing across the screen. When I'd ask who she was talking to, the answer was always the same, delivered with a tired sigh. Just a friend from work. His name, this so-called friend, started popping up in our conversations so often it felt like a third person was living in our home, a shadow I could never quite see. Every time I brought him up, she'd get defensive, her voice sharp. "You're just being insecure," she'd snap, turning it around on me, making me feel like I was the one with the problem. Her accusations started to chip away at me, making me question my own sanity. One evening, everything came to a head. She walked in, her face set with a strange, bold determination I hadn't seen before. Without a word, she tossed a stack of papers onto the kitchen table. They landed with a thud that echoed the sinking feeling in my stomach. "We need a new arrangement," she announced. I asked her what on earth she meant. She crossed her arms, a defiant wall between us. "He's important to me," she said, her voice cold. "You need to accept our friendship." She insisted nothing was happening, that we're just friends, but her eyes couldn't meet mine. They flickered with guilt, a tiny tell that betrayed her confident stance. My gaze fell back to the papers on the table. "Why are you giving me legal documents, Mara?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "They're divorce papers," she said, almost casually. "Just in case." My heart stopped. "In case of what?" She looked at me, a smug little smile playing on her lips, as if she held all the cards. "If you don't accept my friend, I'll leave you," she stated flatly. A cold wave washed over me. I felt numb. "Are you threatening me?" I asked, the words catching in my throat. "It's not a threat," she corrected, her tone patronizing. "It's a warning. I'm tired of explaining myself. If you truly loved me, you'd understand." I had to ask the question that had been haunting me for months. "Are you cheating on me?" She let out a short, harsh laugh. "You're so paranoid," she scoffed. "But laughter isn't a sign of innocence, it's often just a mask." And her mask slipped just a moment later when her phone buzzed on the counter. My eyes instinctively glanced at the screen. His name glowed there, followed by a bright red heart emoji. Her face went pale. She snatched the phone away so quickly it was almost comical. That single, panicked reaction was more honest than anything she had said all night. I didn't yell. I didn't throw things. There was no point in arguing with a lie. I just nodded slowly and walked away from the kitchen, leaving her standing there with her phone clutched in her hand. She thought she had won the battle. She had no idea I had already lost the war and was ready to surrender. That night I slept on the couch. I could hear her in our bedroom, her laughter echoing through the house as she talked to him on the phone. The disrespect was a physical thing, a weight pressing down on me in the darkness, but I remained calm. I knew that anger clouds judgment, and I needed a clear head for what was coming next. The next morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. She was humming as she made breakfast, chatting brightly about our plans for the weekend. I just sat there, listening quietly, sipping my coffee. When she finally finished her cheerful monologue, I looked at her and said, "I'll sign the papers." The smile vanished from her face. Her eyes widened. "Are you serious?" She stammered. "Absolutely," I replied, my voice even. The color drained from her cheeks. "But why are you giving up so easily?" she asked, genuinely confused. I looked her straight in the eye. "I don't fight for someone who threatens me with leaving," I said. That wasn't the answer she was expecting. Her whole strategy, her entire power play had just crumbled. Later that day I went to see a lawyer. I didn't go empty-handed. I had been quietly collecting things for a while: financial records, text message screenshots, a small log of her late nights. I wasn't trying to be vindictive. I just wanted to protect myself. I told the lawyer I wanted a clean, smooth separation. He assured me he would handle everything, making sure it was all done legally and quickly. Meanwhile, my phone was blowing up. Mara was sending a relentless stream of texts. First, she was apologizing for being dramatic. Then she was insisting she didn't really want a divorce. that she just wanted me to accept her friend. Her messages grew longer, more frantic, more desperate with each passing hour. I didn't reply to a single one. I let my silence be the answer. Sometimes saying nothing says everything. When I got home that evening, she was pacing the living room like a caged animal. The moment I walked in, she rushed over and hugged me tightly, burying her face in my chest, trying to pretend that everything was fine, that we could just go back to the way things were. I gently but firmly stepped back. "We're not pretending anymore, Mara," I said. Her eyes filled with confusion. "What do you mean?" I didn't say a word. I just handed her a folder, the one from my lawyer. Inside were my own finalized divorce documents, already signed by me, ready for submission. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she pulled them out. Her legs seemed to give way, and she dropped onto the couch, staring at the papers in her hand. "How could you do this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I reminded her calmly, "You gave me the papers first." Suddenly, the excuses started pouring out. She blamed stress from work, she blamed loneliness, she blamed a dozen different misunderstandings. I listened patiently, and when she was done, I told her, none of that excuses betrayal. She tried to argue that her friend was harmless, that I was blowing everything out of proportion. I just pointed out the pattern, the lies, the secrecy, the constant emotional manipulation. The truth was undeniable. She covered her face with her hands and began to cry, loud, racking sobs, but I remained calm. I had already done my grieving, silently, over the past few months. Now, all I felt was a quiet resolve. She started begging for another chance, pleading that she didn't want to lose everything. "You lost everything the moment you tried to control me with threats," I told her. I walked past her and started packing a bag with my essentials. She followed me from room to room, her pleas turning into desperate wails. I just kept repeating, "My decision is final." Finally, her pleading turned to anger. She screamed that I had ruined her life. I paused at the bedroom door and looked back at her. "You made your own choices, Mara," I said. Back in the living room, I placed my house keys on the coffee table next to her. I walked to the front door, my bag in hand. Before I left, I turned to her one last time. She was staring at me, her face swollen and streaked with tears, the full weight of her actions finally crashing down on her. "Relationships built on manipulation," I said softly, "always collapse." Then I walked out the door and didn't look back. The cold night air hit my face, and it felt like it was washing away months of tension and anxiety. And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I could finally breathe again. I was free. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content.